Welcome back to ShopDog-Garage. It's, the 9th of April. It's Easter. Happy Easter. And we're going to go out here and work on the motorcycle. Don't know if you noticed, we still have snow. Although probably not for long. It's, like 48 degrees. Still snow on the roof. ShopDog's still confused. Haven't been in here in a little while. Let's go see what a mess we've got going on in here. Today's goal is to figure out how I'm doing this wire chase. I've picked up a few things, but I really need to work this out, how I'm doing the wires up into this cavity so that I can mount the computer, figure out how long the wiring is, then I can harvest the wires that I need to extend for these harnesses because they're not long enough. And we'll just see how far we get today. Welcome back. Okay, we're going through, sorting out what has to go what direction. All these go up to the ignition switch and the coil, while this one drops off at the starter. These here will go up in the main harness up towards the battery. These aren't currently used, but we'll probably run them up into that area. We'll see what we want to do with those. These obviously go to the rear because it's your brake lights and everything. Just kind of going through everything, trying to decide. Well, I've already figured that as cool as this hose is, one, it's a little stiff. I like the look of it. It's just not enough diameter inside. Everything would be packed. So that one goes back to the Menards. This natural gas looking line, even though it's actually for water, but it's got that same build structure that you expect for natural gas. This may actually be one that works out for us. So I popped see there's a washer to hold it. I popped it out on this end just to see what this was like here. And it had this rough lip. In fact, it still has it over here. I just took a couple seconds with the drum here, and I can round that over and make that nice and gradual. I'm really thinking maybe if I cut these silly nuts off of here, I don't need these FIP nuts, could probably come up with something where we have a clamp coming down there holding this bent up into this cavity back here. Well, here you can probably see it here. So here, I'll come from this side, but you can see roughly where I'm talking about. And then that would give us a nice protected run that can move a little bit because, all this stuff moves, keeps the wires safe. And if I can even have those nice beveled corners in there, and remembering I will wrap and sleeve the wires as well, that would work out pretty nice, protect everything from the exhaust. And, just make it look really, really elegant. I like it better than the old version of the bike where it was all just yellow Expando. So, we're working on that, trying to figure that out. I have not decided which direction this is going to go on the plate yet. Oh, I did pick up, because remember I said I wasn't actually going to use those. I did pick up some screws. So we can get some nice little button heads on there. Those will look really, really nice. And, when I was walking around, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I do know that what I'm going to do does not involve that. So that can go back as well. As you can see, I'm being very boring, but, sitting here figuring this out. Okay, the inside diameter of this tube is more than sufficient, even with a heat sleeve on it. So that told me that. I think I've got it pretty broke out as far as what's got to go where. I have not decided what I'm going to do with all of these indicator panel. This is what would turn on a bunch of lights. I just don't know what I want to do with these yet. I may terminate them into a connector somewhere. I got to think about what to do there, because I don't ever foresee him adding a big fancy dashboard to it, So yeah, I tried to talk him into the Dakota setup, but I think, one, I don't think he likes the overall aesthetic, but two, I think that's out of the budget at this point. So I gotta decide what to do, because this is a pretty good sized mass of wires. So let me think on that. And then, of course, like I said before, these go to turn signals, brake lights, that sort of thing. These actually go to the brake switch. These all go to the coil or the ignition switch. Everything else here either goes to the battery or up to the handlebars. So just getting all that sorted out and figuring out how long it all needs to be. Because remember, the cutoff side is going to be our extension wires here, because all those wires stop right here. So they were going to get extended no matter what. And ideally, what I'd like to have is connectors in here. I know it doesn't always make sense, but if this is serviceable in the future, that might really be a saving grace, you know? So we're going to try really hard to keep that. Okay, we've been figuring out what our lengths need to be. It'll actually wind up in heat sleeving inside the tube, but this is what I'm thinking we're going to be doing, is something like this. So putting a clamp from where he's already broken his paint here anyway to hold that like that. Have it kind of go around the swing arm and dump into the battery tray area. Leave plenty of service loop. And then it looks like if I cut 2 foot of wire off, that gives me more than enough to do all my splicing in here and dump it down in here as well for everything that goes up to the handlebars. So hopefully 2 feet is enough. But that's kind of where we're at. And then obviously some of these other ones I'll have to route and terminate as we get there. All this is going to be coming right back out in a minute. Have not figured out what I want to do about these indicators. I don't know. I got to think. I have a couple of holes here. I wonder what those used to be for. Maybe I can come up with something to mount these on a connector and have it sitting there for future use. I hate limiting future use, but I also really don't want to dump those up here. It's already going to be pretty crowded in here. So I don't want to run them up there for no reason. So we'll see. Okay, I think the next step is to get these bundled together, label them further up the wires, and then cut my 2 feet off. At this point, we're just labeling and cutting and labeling and cutting, and oh boy. But I need to definitely keep track because they reuse the same wire color too many times. Okay, we're starting to really get this sorted out. I even know how I want to mount this side. No idea on this end what we're going to do, because this is an oil tank, so it's not like I can just drill a hole in it. So we'll think on that. Okay, Shop Dog's eating his pretzel. We're still playing with this. Obviously, I need to get a different clamp, but this is at least showing me the concept. Nice, protected. Coming up. And then I need to figure out how to use this screw hole here. Here, let me turn you guys around. To secure this very securely right here. Otherwise, which he probably wouldn't hear, but that would drive me crazy. So, and I do also have 2 holes down here that I could use as well. I can also get a little more bend on all this. I can make this snake in a little better. Just figuring it out. Like I said, obviously I got to get a new clamp. I don't like that one, but it's doing the job for now. So looking in here, here are those indicator lines. They're all just terminated off and will get clamped out of the way. And then we have, this is the brake switch. That is going to go wherever, you know, the line coming off of here back to here, wherever that switch goes, those are going to go to it. This one is the rear harness. That's all going to go back this way, up and then around for, you know, the 2 rear turn signals, as well as the brake switch light and license light. So I'm going to do those. And then these are all going to follow along with the ignition up to, so pretend it's going through this clamp, and I've got more of those kind of clamps, so it'll run under there, but the ignition, you know, and the ignition switch are all located right here. So the way we're going to do this is all of these are going to come to this point and then move up to right in here. And then, of course, one of these is the starter, and that's going to loop around to the starter right there to this point right here. This goes straight up to the battery, except we're going to make a new one. We don't like this. Also, it's not going to go to the right side anyway, because the battery has the polarity backwards. I know I've mentioned that about 10 times because the battery has the polarity backwards. So this is kind of where we're at now. You can see several of these things are long. You know, this is the battery, the ground, and the power from the battery for the computer. The neutral safety switch. You know, a couple things that didn't need to get broken off because they don't come from right there. We'll deal with all those. Trying to think of where. Oh, who did that? That's peculiar. Man, got lucky finding that. I do still have to extend these because the voltage regulator isn't where it physically would normally be, and plugs in here. You can see it's, you know, 4.5 inches short, 5 inches short. So still got to do that as well, but that's pretty straightforward. Starting to get there though. This is starting to come together. I know there's still a lot of work in the handlebars, but until I could get all of this sorted out, there really wasn't anything I could do about them. So I will continue doing what I'm doing here. Okay, I gotta stop and think about a couple things. So let's take a break. It's been a little while. ShopDog and I have a couple hours we can spend today. I gotta get myself tooled back up because it's been over a week and see where I left off. I do recall that trying to figure out how I'm clamping this is really high on my list, and making sure it's not going to interfere with the fender cover here. You know, want to make sure where that sits just to make sure I'm not going to cause any problems. Obviously, I'm going to have to use these holes as my reference point for whatever I do for clamping here. There's just not going to be any other option. I don't remember how many wires need to come up, how on earth I'm going to fish them, any of that. I do know I want a connector here for the headlight. You know, we'll drill a hole, put a poppy tab in there. I want something for the headlight. Everything else is going to come straight from the handlebars down through this hole, get loomed, come around, pop all the way down in here, and then all get pinned and terminated right in this ballpark here. I don't know that I have a full count yet, and that's going to matter. So got to go through that. Started pulling wires around to where they go. I can see, obviously this will come off the battery. This is the power for that little computer. So, okay, there's a bit going on here. And yes, I know this still needs extended, and I got to figure out how I want to get this up to the battery. It's probably going to go back and around, and you know, there's a couple things to work out. This actually is probably going to come up and follow the starter and pop up through here. That is most likely how that's going to go. So let's get back to work. Okay, I think this hole and this hole are the only two that get used here. The one obviously has this strut on it, and it's a much bigger diameter. So then there's this one, and then because of the way the turn signal works, that must go here and here. So that's how that's going to work, which puts the end of that right in here. So that's not going to be an issue. Now I'm starting to look at where the battery rides. I want to make sure that this doesn't have any problems. And yes, these clamps are temporary. I'll find or make something better. I want to use that location, this hole, I think. I think the one down here is too far down. But what I'm looking at is, you know, where's the battery going to sit? So from this to this, that shows me how wide the battery is. So now it doesn't have to be in my way. Get that out of there. Trying to figure out how to keep this in this location, because I think something similar to this is exactly what I want. Now I am in thermal sleeve anyway, but radiating heat from, because remember the exhaust runs right here. Radiating heat is not a bad idea. So kind of looking at this. I think this is going to work out. I may have to have a little more severe of a bend here. And at some point, I've got to find a better clamping system. I don't like these, but they're doing the job for now. Now, I'll have to probably make something for the clamps here. But if I've got this secured here and something similar to this up here, you can kind of see that. That puts all my wiring in a good spot. I did remember that I probably should have dumped these into the battery box. I'm not sure. These are the 2 turn signals. You know, the ones that go down these little tubes in the fender. So they go down these 2 tubes and then come out to the light. Yeah, that'll be fun. Gonna just have to put like a bullet connector and make sure it fits. I got to figure out how I want those to get up there. And also looked at the 2 lights for the stoplight and the brake light, or you know, the running light and the brake light. Those run in a tube under here, and everything relies on just chassis ground. So be interesting to see. I don't see, you know, exactly where the swing arm gets grounded. You know, I'm looking at that, you know, I mean, I can see how these guys could, you know, theoretically grab their ground through the fender and through here. But how is that grounded? Remember, this is rubber isolated, rubber isolated, rubber isolated. So where does that ground come from? Gonna have to think on that, because obviously we're gonna need ground for the lights, you know, on the where, I don't remember where he put that. It's in here somewhere. Yeah, nope, that's the caliper. But yeah, he's got a license plate light and brake light in here somewhere. We've shown it in another video. I just got to figure out, how is this grounded? Or should I include my own ground? That's probably the better option, is run a ground wire just to verify that it's always going to have ground. Because if we're relying on the ground just coming through some bolts that are in rubber isolators, that's a terrible idea. I don't understand why we would trust that. So yeah, I think I will have to include a ground wire. In fact, you know what I'll do? I have an extra black wire right here. I will push that through to remind myself later, just to make sure I know that I want my own ground here. Because yeah, there just isn't a consistent ground path here. And I know it's only a couple hundred milliamps, but you got to get them from somewhere. And I don't see a ground strap between the engine, the frame, and the swing arm. In fact, I don't even see a ground strap currently between the engine and the frame, but I have a feeling when this plate that covers all this is on, I seem to recall seeing a few grounds on that plate. Remember, there was a ground on the back of that. So I'm probably going to grab a few braids, something like these, and add these as well. These probably aren't the ones I will use, but you know, we'll get something similar with the right bolt sizes to go from the engine to the chassis. The battery gets grounded to that engine plate, and I'm going to ground it to the chassis. And then, yeah, I don't see anything for grounding the swing arm. There's no screw anywhere. So not sure how that traditionally would work. But we're going to add our own ground and go from there. Okay, I'm working on the left hand, you know, the clutch side. And that's the light that was the easier to add. I've removed the white light because we're not planning to use it. So that's been removed. Obviously, both the ground and the wire, they're not even close to long enough. They need to be 6 feet long, but I'll deal with that shortly. What I'm still working out is how it's getting into the wire harness. So I think, looking at this, and I've been looking at things, one of these holes is probably how that's getting in. So unfortunately, that just is what it is. That's how that's going to have to work. And of course, if you recall, that indicator is going to get mounted here, and it doesn't have a clearance slot for that. So on the other one, right here, it has a little slot to clear something. So what I've got to do on the housing on this one is actually hog this out right here. Not my favorite thing to do. It's super spooky. Don't like monkeying with it, but it has to be done. That's my first pass. I'm gonna go do a quick test fit, and we will see how much more we got to remove. So remember, not left-handed, but you can see how this goes. So yeah, I've still got to go deeper. Kind of suspected that, but I wanted to make sure I was in the right spot, and we definitely are. So okay, got to keep going. Okay, so we have extended the left and just got it back in its sleeve. This is the end of the horn. He doesn't currently have one. I don't know that there's a plan for one, but I wanted that to be available. So I just remember we had put these in here. I taped it to it, and now I'm just starting to pull it through, but I thought, oh, I better show that before it goes in. So this is the hard plastic that protects it. We also have it loomed in vinyl harness tape. So I'm going to get that through and get that kind of hanging, and then we can start on the other side. That sounded easier in my mind. I actually had to pull that down to do that. That does not like sliding through those two hard 90s. Okay, poor Shop Dog's bored. We're starting to kind of get things hung back up. Fun, fun, fun that is. So we've got that coming down. It's nice and relaxed, and I'm starting to work out exactly how I want to secure this. I'm probably going to do like I plan to do with the headlights and have a retention in this tension plate here and some kind of spreader plate. Starting to work out wiring. Recently remembered 2 wires have to go back up, and that of course is the wires for the actual headlight. You know, I've got the switch stuff right here, but that goes down to the computer, and then 2 will come back, and then this is also going to get mounted here, because remember, the fuel tank kind of hides all of that, so this is a great place to attach stuff. I need this to still have plenty of relief. You know, I want that to not be an issue when you turn left, turn right. So we need that to work. I think what's going to happen is something similar to that. So still working it out. May actually have to increase this. You know, it's snuggish, but we'll get there. Also think I'm going to find some thicker hard plastic for right in here to help that transition. Let's keep that thing nice and tidy. Just noticed he's got his headlight on a little crooked. I'll have to see if that turns. If it doesn't, oh, that's annoying. So got this guy back up and lined up. Remember, we had taken notes. So there's still a lot to do. This throttle is spooky. Not sure how that routes yet. There's a few things left that are spooky, but the important thing is, you know, this all ends right about here. So we got plenty to get to our 2 8-pin connectors, which are going to be all of this. And yeah, that's going to work pretty slick, I think. Yeah, so got a bit done. Had 3 hours I could donate today. Got to pick up a little bit of the mess on the floor here. running these through, oh God, that was a godsend. I'm glad I left those in there. I don't know how on earth I'd have got them through. So, and I do understand this is going to come back out. I'm sure of it. One, I got to add another wire set. But two, I'm not sure that I'm not going to be running some heat sleeve or something here yet. So, and this may go up 1 grommet size. Haven't decided yet. But yeah, so this is going to actually be the end of this particular video. Hopefully we can get it up in the next day or two. Anyway, thanks for watching. ShopDog says, please like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, there can't be pretzels. So, he knows we're wrapping it up. Have a good day.